Mr. Thorne, we made this reservation 3 weeks ago. It's my daughter's 16th birthday.
Yeah, look at the confirmation number.
Fully booked for our regular members. Please step aside.
Are you implying we aren't paying customers? Or is there another reason?
I'm implying that you are trespassing. I'm giving you 5 seconds to leave my property before I call the police.
Have you dragged out in handcuffs?
Make the call, I insist. But I promise you, Marcus, that will be the most expensive phone call you ever make.
This 911 call was made on a stifling Friday evening, June 14, 2023, from the heart of Georgetown, Washington, D.C. The caller was certain the law was on his side, convinced that his status and skin color gave him the right to decide who was worthy to cross the threshold of his establishment and who was not. He didn't know just one thing. The man he was trying to kick out like a petty grifter didn't just know the law. He was the man who enforced it at the highest level. Marcus Thorne, 55, general manager of the Sapphire Room, felt like the king of his little gastronomic kingdom. For 12 years managing this elite establishment, where a ribeye cost $180 and club memberships were passed down through inheritance, Thorne had developed a specific policy of filtering guests. Officially, it was called dress code enforcement and reservation management. Unofficially, it was a wall. Over 10 years, 18 complaints had been filed against Thorne with the Better Business Bureau and local human rights commissions. 15 of them alleged racial discrimination. The pattern was frighteningly consistent. 2018, a group of black doctors arriving after a medical conference waited 90 minutes for a table while white couples were seated immediately. Thorne explained it as a hostess error. The result? A mandatory tolerance training he clicked through online in 15 minutes. 2020, a Latino family was denied entry because their shoes allegedly didn't meet standards, even though a senator's son was sitting at a nearby table in scuffed sneakers. The restaurant owners turned a blind eye. Revenue was up, exclusivity was maintained, and the complaints simply disappeared into the trash, just like the people Thorne deemed unworthy of his attention. In his mind, the world was divided into us and them, and he was the gatekeeper. Elijah Bennett, 48, was used to barriers. He grew up in South Chicago, graduated from Harvard Law School magna cum laude, and had dedicated the last 22 years to serving the law. His career was flawless and tough. First, a federal prosecutor in New York, where he put the top brass of the Gambino crime family behind bars. Then a move to D.C. At the time of the incident, Elijah Bennett held the position of Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice. Colleagues called him the Silent Storm. Bennett never raised his voice in the courtroom. He didn't need to. His knowledge of case law was encyclopedic, and his moral compass was unshakable. He oversaw investigations into police departments violating civil rights and signed federal lawsuits against corporations for discrimination. The irony was that the man whose job was to protect millions of Americans from systemic abuse simply wanted to celebrate his daughter Chloe's 16th birthday that evening. The evening was warm, the thermometer reading 82 degrees, the air thick with the scent of blooming lindens and expensive perfume drifting over Georgetown. M Street was gridlocked with limousines and taxis. The Bennett family, Elijah in an impeccable Tom Ford suit, his wife Elena, a pediatric surgeon in an elegant evening gown, and the birthday girl Chloe approached the massive mahogany doors of the Sapphire Room at exactly 7:45 p.m. They were happy. Chloe was laughing at her father's joke. 2 minutes later, that laughter would be replaced by tears of humiliation. At the hostess stand stood a young woman, Sarah, who, seeing the name on the list, was already reaching for the menus. But then Marcus Thorne stepped out of the shadows. He swept his gaze over the family, a look full of cold contempt. The habitual algorithm fired in his brain. Not our clientele. He didn't see the expensive suit. He didn't see the intelligence in their eyes. He saw only skin color. "Good evening. Name?" Thorne threw out dryly, not even offering a greeting. "Bennett. Reservation for 3 at 7:45. Elijah replied calmly. "I don't see it." Thorne didn't even look at the tablet. "Please check again. It was confirmed via email 3 weeks ago." "I know my book, sir. We are fully committed tonight. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the burger joint down the street. They don't require reservations." "Excuse me?" Eleanor stepped forward. "We are not looking for a burger joint. We are looking for our table. And I'm telling you it doesn't exist. Now please, move. You're blocking the flow." Bennett pulled out his phone and opened the confirmation email. "Here is the confirmation code, SR7844, sent by your system." "Systems glitch," Thorne waved it off. "Look, I'm going to be frank. Even if you had a reservation, you don't meet the dress code." "The dress code?" Elijah looked down at his suit. "I'm wearing a suit and tie. The gentleman by the window is wearing a polo shirt. It's about the overall presentation. We cultivate a specific atmosphere here, and frankly, your presence is disrupting it." At this moment, Chloe started recording the interaction on her phone. Thorne noticed, and his face flushed red. "Put that phone away, little girl. Recording on private property is illegal." "Actually," Elijah countered calmly, "DC is a one-party consent jurisdiction, and this is a place of public accommodation. She is well within her rights." "Oh, a sidewalk lawyer," Thorne sneered. "I've had enough. Get out, now." "We are not leaving until we get the service we were promised or a valid legal reason for refusal." "You want a reason? I'm the manager. That's the reason. I'm calling 911. And when they get here, don't blame me if things get ugly." Consider this for a moment. Do you think private businesses should have the right to refuse service without explanation when it looks like clear discrimination? Does the law need to be stricter on these managers? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thorne dialed 911, his voice instantly changed. From an arrogant bully, he transformed into a frightened victim. 911 emergency. I have 3 individuals at the Sapphire Room. They are aggressive, shouting, refusing to leave. The male is threatening me. I feel unsafe. Please send units immediately. He hung up and crossed his arms, blocking the entrance with his body. Officers are on the way. Last chance to run. I don't run, Marcus, Elijah replied quietly. I wait. The atmosphere reached a boiling point. Restaurant patrons began peering out the windows. Some pulled out phones. Thorne was nervous, but confident in the outcome. He knew the local patrol officers. They often ate at his place with a 50% discount. He thought the system worked for him. 4 minutes later, 2 patrol cars arrived with sirens wailing. Officer Tate, young and ambitious with 3 years on the force, stepped out of the first. From the second came Sergeant O'Malley, a veteran with 20 years of service. Thorne ran out to meet them, gesturing wildly. Officers, thank God. These people, they forced their way into the lobby. They are harassing my staff, shouting obscenities. I asked them to leave 10 times. The man, he reached into his pocket like he had a weapon. He has a weapon. Officer Tate's hand went to his holster. I don't know, maybe. He's aggressive. Just get them out of here. The officers approached the Bennett family. Elijah stood motionless, his hands open and visible. He knew the protocol better than the police themselves. He knew that one sudden movement could cost him his life, despite all his titles. It was that familiar chill every black man in America feels when facing the police. The fear that your biography won't matter when the shot is fired. Sir, step away from the door, hands where I can see them, Tate shouted. My hands are visible, officer, Elijah said in a calm, commanding voice. I am unarmed. I am standing still. Turn around. Place your hands on the wall. Now! Officer, I have done nothing wrong. I am waiting for a table I reserved. I said turn around. You are creating a disturbance. Tate moved closer, preparing to use force. Thorne stood behind him with a triumphant smirk. Yeah, check him for drugs too. He looks like he's high, the manager yelled. At that moment, Sergeant O'Malley stepped closer. He looked at Elijah. Something about the man's posture, his calm demeanor, the way the expensive suit fit him, made the experienced cop hesitate. Hold on, Tate, O'Malley said. Sir, do you have identification? I do. It is in my inner left jacket pocket. May I reach for it slowly? Go ahead, slowly. Elijah used 2 fingers to pull out a leather wallet and extended it to the sergeant. Thorne snickered. Probably a fake ID, or a library card. Sergeant O'Malley opened the wallet. A metallic badge with an eagle gleamed under the streetlights. Below it, gold letters were engraved. Department of Justice, United States of America. And below that, Elijah Bennett, Assistant Attorney General. The sergeant's eyes went wide. He shifted his gaze from the badge to Elijah, then to the pale-faced Officer Tate, and finally to Thorne. Holy, O'Malley whispered. He abruptly straightened up and took his hand off his holster. Sir, Mr. Attorney General, I apologize. We were told there was an aggressive subject. The only aggression here, Sergeant, is coming from that manager who filed a false police report, Elijah said, his tone icy. Thorne, hearing the title, froze. The smile slid off his face, replaced by an expression of primal terror. He began to realize what was happening. Wait. What? Who is he? Thorne stammered. Marcus, Sergeant O'Malley turned to the manager, steel in his voice. You just called a SWAT response on the head of the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ. Are you out of your mind? I didn't know. He didn't say. Thorne began to stutter, backing away. He just looked like a troublemaker. It's a misunderstanding. No, Marcus, Elijah took a step forward. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was profiling. You saw a black family and you decided we didn't belong. You fabricated a story about a weapon. Do you know the penalty for filing a false report to federal officers? Here is the moment of truth. Do you think it's fair that the police attitude changed only after they saw the badge? What would have happened to a regular family without high-level connections in this situation? Comment, justice, if you want to see how this ends. Events began to move rapidly. Sergeant O'Malley immediately requested a supervisor to the scene. Dispatch, cancel backup, situation contained. I need a lieutenant on scene immediately regarding a VIP incident involving false reporting. Elijah turned to Thorne. The man was trembling, his hands shaking. You said my money wasn't good enough, Marcus. Now I'm going to make sure you never work in this town again. Please, sir, let's seat you. Best table in the house. Complimentary champagne. On me, just don't ruin me. My daughter is crying in the car, Marcus. There is no champagne in the world that can fix that. By the time the lieutenant arrived, the video Chloe filmed had already been uploaded to TikTok. The footage clearly captured Thorne calling them your people and threatening they would be dragged out in cuffs. Within the first hour, the video had 50,000 views. By morning, 3 million. The hashtag #JuxtaRacistSapphireRoom was trending on Twitter. But that was just the beginning. The next morning, on Monday, Elijah Bennett didn't go to work. He went to the best private law firm in Washington. The lawsuit was filed within 48 hours. Defendants, Marcus Thorne personally, the management company Sapphire Hospitality Group, and the building owners. The complaint spanned 40 pages, one violation of Title II of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, discrimination in places of public accommodation. 2. Defamation and slander, false accusation of weapon possession. 3. Intentional infliction of emotional distress on a minor. 4. Malicious prosecution, damages sought, $15 million. The resonance was colossal. The Washington Post ran a headline, "Dinner Cancelled: How a Legendary DC Restaurant Became a Symbol of Racism." Investors began mass withdrawals from Sapphire Hospitality Group. Reservations were cancelled months in advance. The Michelin-starred executive chef resigned in protest, stating he would not cook for racists. During the discovery phase, Bennett's lawyers cracked open a Pandora's box. In Thorne's corporate emails, they found messages to owners with phrases like "cleared the lobby of undesirable elements" and maintaining exclusivity by filtering out the urbans. It was proof of a systemic policy, not a one-man error. After 8 months of legal battles, the company surrendered. They knew a DC jury would destroy them. The final settlement included 1. A public admission of guilt and apology. 2. Immediate termination of Marcus Thorne without severance or references. 3. Complete closure of the Sapphire Room. The brand was liquidated. 4. A compensation payout to the Bennett family of $4,000. Marcus Thorne lost everything. His name was added to informal blacklists in the hospitality industry. Journalists last spotted him working as a warehouse dispatcher for Amazon in a Maryland suburb. But the most important changes happened at the legislative level. Thanks to this case, the D.C. City Council passed the Bennett Act, which requires restaurants to keep data on reasons for refusal of service for 3 years and imposes an automatic $50,000 fine for the first instance of proven discrimination. In a final interview, sitting in his office with the U.S., flag in the background, Elijah Bennett said words that went viral. "I stood there that night not as an assistant attorney general, but as a father. I had the badge, I had the power, and I could fight back. But what about the teacher, the mechanic, the nurse who stood there before me? They were humiliated and sent away, and no one heard them. This lawsuit wasn't about the dinner. It was about making sure that the next time Marcus Thorne looks at a black family, he sees people, not targets. And if he can't do that, he shouldn't serve a glass of water, let alone manage a restaurant." This story is a reminder that power and prejudice are a dangerous cocktail. Marcus Thorne thought he was protecting the exclusivity of his restaurant, but in reality, he destroyed it with his own hands. A system that turned a blind eye to his behavior for years finally collapsed under the weight of one man who refused to back down. Do you think a $4 million penalty is enough for humiliating a family in front of hundreds of people? Or would jail time for the false police report be fairer? Let me know your opinion in the comments, hit like if you support Bennett's fight, and subscribe to the Justice Chronicler. Here, we tell the stories the news stays silent about. Until next time.